Hello and welcome to the Earth Trust podcast. I'm Suzi Kemp from the communications team, and in this episode I'm talking to our rangers Tristan and Jake about nurturing biodiversity in our green spaces. The UK boasts more than 70,000 species of animals, plants, fungi and microorganisms, but this abundance of wildlife is declining. This isn't only deeply concerning because plants and animals have a right to thrive and because they make life on Earth a richer, more fascinating place, but because they also play a vital role in our own survival. Biodiversity is essential for the processes that support all life on Earth. Without it, we lose the healthy ecosystems that we rely on to provide us with the air we breathe and the food we eat. Ours is the first generation that understands in detail the damage that human activity is causing. But it's not too late, and scientists are confident that we know the most effective ways to help biodiversity recover. We need to better manage our natural resources and our landscapes so that people and nature can thrive together. This is exactly what Earth Trust aims to do. So let's hear more now from Tristan and Jake.
You're quite right. So biodiversity loss is a big problem in the country and in Oxfordshire as well. So the UK has lost more biodiversity than any other G7 country. 50% of the species within the UK are threatened with extinction, and large areas of habitat have been lost across the country and within Oxfordshire. So 99.7% of fens, 97% of species-rich grasslands, 80% of lowland heathlands, and 70% of ancient woodlands. And yeah, Oxfordshire is key to those trends as well. Lots of habitats being lost, but also just fragmented and cut up with infrastructure, housing estates, and isolated communities are much less effective for wildlife than joined up communities are.
Yeah, absolutely. So what can be done about that? Like, what's the answer?
Well, we can try and protect what we've got is the main thing, really, to prevent any further damage, and then enhance what we've got as well, or enhance areas that are doing sort of less favourable conditions. Biodiversity net gain is an example of a way that we could do that. And we had one of the first net gain projects, or the first net gain project in the country, which is Bushy Bank over by North Farm. Mm-hmm. So that was the restoration of a chalk grasslands. That's a habitat that's been lost and fragmented across the country.
Yeah, so Earth Trust care for a variety of different green spaces across Oxfordshire. Can you tell us a bit about the habitats that are being managed with support from your volunteers and what the work involves?
We've got a really good range of habitats across here and our community sites. We're really lucky to manage a fen, which is Abbeyfish Ponds in Nappington. And this is one of the most sort of endangered habitats in the county and the country, really. Most of them have been lost, usually to drainage for agriculture. So yeah, we do a lot of work there. It's quite intensive, lots of kind of cutting of the wetland areas with volunteers. And we've also got the woodlands, which Jake's been doing a lot of recently.
We have a team of hedge layers that hedge lay throughout the site for us, so keeping them topped up with coppice is really important. So that's a big sort of activity for this time of the year.
So coppicing looks quite nasty because it looks like you're chopping trees down, doesn't it? But what's that actually doing for biodiversity?
Yeah, so we get a lot of comments as we're doing it from people sort of asking why. And it's really important for us to do it because it allows the coppice to grow back if we cut it correctly. So by coppicing the whole store over the next 7 or 8 years, again, it will grow back over time. It's a really robust species and we can constantly use it for our fencing. But like I said, yeah, we get a lot of people asking why and sort of like negative comments towards it. But once we sort of explain to them why we do it, they really understand the importance of it.
Yeah, engagement's key. With the coppicing, every species, whether it's plant or animal, has what's a niche, which is the abiotics, or the non-living conditions that it favours. So you and I have got a niche, everyone's got a niche, whether it's the warm office or being outside.
Yeah.
And the more we can do with that kind of vegetation management, like coppicing, scrub clearing and all that, and kind of creating this mosaic and patchwork of different vegetation heights and structures, the more niches we're creating for other species.
Right, so it's that diverse habitat as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Small, yeah. So what are the key challenges you face as a land management ranger when it comes to nurturing biodiversity, and how do you address or mitigate these?
So one of the key sites that we manage across the farm is our hay meadows. So they're really species-rich meadows. We cut them for hay, a combination of hay cutting and grazing to improve and maintain that diversity of flowers. And one of the issues we have with that is the issue of dog fouling, which can either then contaminate the hay, or if animals are grazing there, and that can lead to problems with diseases and abortion in sheep. So we have to manage the sort of land use around that activity, really.
Right.
So although we realise that dog walking is such a key way of people engaging with these sites, and so many people come here to walk their dog, and we have to work alongside them and sometimes close those meadows off and limit dog access to them, which is quite difficult for us to do, especially when they're so highly valued by them.
Yeah.
But once we've spoken to them, as Jake was saying, with chopping down trees, it's all about that engagement. And once they're on board and you've explained it, then they
That's it. It's just having the knowledge, isn't it? Because the general public probably just don't understand that that's an issue.
Yeah, definitely. So no, it's great, and hopefully get them thinking more about about other habitats that we manage as well. If they can start thinking about that one which they use, they can think of others.
That's quite a common thing for all the management plans that we have, is finding a way to allow humans and nature to live alongside together and work together. Obviously the human population has expanded lots recently, so smaller green spaces are really important to us at the moment. So understanding and educating people on the importance of living together and working with nature, I think is really beneficial, and something that we're trying to push towards a lot more at the Earth Trust.
Yeah. Another problem we face is ash dieback, which is this tree disease that's affecting the ash trees. So a lot of our trees, especially in Little Whitnam Woods, are ash. So it's going to be quite a lot of work to kind of mitigate the potential dangers of those trees in the woods. So we're going to be cutting a lot more trees, and have been cutting a lot more trees than normally we would, which again is for the safety of the walkers, so they can still go out and engage with these spaces.
How important are community reserves within urban areas for biodiversity, and what changes have you noticed at the ones that we care for?
They're really important, not just for biodiversity, but for people engaging with that biodiversity, who make sites are really unique, because I'd say the majority of the people who go to them walk to them. Again, at Abbey Fish Ponds, we've got waterfoals, which are quite rare, and they've been spotted over the past 2 years, which is a really nice thing to see. And then we've also got Thrupp Lake, and there's been some quite interesting birds in there recently, haven't there, Jake?
Yeah, we've seen quite a few different species recently. So Thrupp's a really good wetland area. So recently we've had great white egret there, and for I think about 2 hours on one day there was a great northern diver, which is not commonly seen inland. So that was pretty special. So it shows that it's a really important area to be managing and looking after.
Thanks for mentioning the community reserve. So we've got 5 community reserves in the area which we manage on behalf of the council. So that's Thrupp Lake and Abbey Fish Ponds in Abingdon, Wallingford Castle Meadows and Riverside Meadows in Wallingford, and then Mowbray Fields in Didcot. These reserves are really important, as some of them are quite small but still very valuable. So they serve as kind of midpoints between other sites, really. So when we're thinking about conservation, we want to think about it at the kind of landscape level and connectivity across the landscape. So although we've got a great site here, which is nice and big, these smaller sites are kind of like ecological outposts to that site. So they can have species there as species are kind of moving around.
So as a ranger being out working kind of all day, every day out in these green spaces, what do you notice about biodiversity loss, and what do you think are the primary factors contributing to it?
Certainly noticeable. There's a lot of factors that contribute to this, and of course, species vary in their abundance throughout the year, between the years, all sorts of things, and weather and climate is going to be one of those. So some years we have good butterfly numbers, some years less, and that can vary on whether it was a warm spring or a dry summer, all these kinds of things. And it's probably the same with birds, isn't that right, Jake?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, there's lots of varying factors involved with bird numbers, especially. So when you do get interesting sightings of birds you don't see very often, it's really, really good to record and obviously make a note of them. These are sort of data elements that we can use in the future to understand how our habitats are benefiting certain species.
So biodiversity monitoring is something that Earth Trust really focus on, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We do butterfly transects on some of our community reserves, and we have a monitoring station that records everything at River of Life 2, from moths to mammals to birds, and it's definitely something that we're hoping to sort of expand in the future, maybe a few more bird surveys and potentially newt surveys, because we have a good population of great crested newts at the clumps, so it'd be really good to learn more about them and understand, what they need and how they sort of live and thrive at the clumps, because it's quite a unique sort of area for them.
So wetlands are a really important habitat for biodiversity, and we're losing that at an incredible rate. We've lost 90% of our wetlands in this country in the last 100 years, and more than 10% of our freshwater and wetland species are now threatened with extinction. So Earth Trust have created a whole new wetland habitat along the banks of the Thames with the River of Life project, and it's really exciting for us now, seeing it quite literally coming to life. Tristan, can you just tell us a bit about the project and how it came about?
The River of Life 2 project was a project to recreate wetland systems on the banks of the River Thames. The Thames is a heavily engineered and modified river, and going through past records and soil samples, we were able to recreate what a more natural floodplain habitat would look like. So we did this by creating backwaters which are connected to the river, and also scrapes in fields next to the river which are not connected to the river but are still full of water. And we also planted the wet woodlands. So those kind of three projects have created this habitat.
Yeah, so they literally fill up as the river flows, but it's kind of, as I understand, slow-moving water, so that the fish kind of have a safer habitat for breeding there.
Yeah, exactly. So slow-moving water, which we don't have a lot of on the Thames, with all the locks and weirs that have been created for navigation. Slow-moving, shallow water. And that's really good for fish and the fish fry.
Yeah, and then where there's fish, there are herons and things that eat fish. So
exactly,
it's that whole biodiversity story, isn't it?
Yeah, and already we've seen kingfishers down there a few months after the project was completed, so that's really good.
I think the importance of it as well, like the success, was being able to look at our first River of Life project and learn from that and understand what we did well and what we didn't do so well, and really utilise that in River of Life 2, which I think has made such a positive impact in seeing, all these species come back so quickly. So being able to use that information was key in the success of this one, I believe.
Definitely, and the whole point of River of Life 2 is to demonstrate to other people what can be done. So obviously we've involved our partners in this local area doing it on a stretch of the Thames, but the Thames is a massive river and there's other landowners along the river that could be doing similar things, just modifying the landscape to help, like you say, people and nature thrive together. So Earth Trust really believe that it's the relationships people have with the natural world that are what are making the difference for the future of green spaces and for our planet. How important is community engagement and public awareness in nurturing biodiversity, do you think?
Community engagement is key, because if you're not engaged and forming a relationship with these sites, then you're less likely to care about them. So the more people we can get here, whether that's an educational visit or actually coming out with the land management team and doing some hands-on work, the more people we're making aware of the site here.
Yeah, so it's just that having that experience with nature, kind of fostering that lifelong connection, I suppose. Other than hands-on practical volunteering, what other ways do Earth Trust encourage community participation?
So on the community reserves, we run a series of events, usually in the school holidays, which allow for kind of families to come and do some ID, and just being on the sites themselves, really. And then, of course, we've got education visits across the main sites, school groups, one-on-one groups, that kind of thing. And also corporate volunteers, which is a really good thing, getting people out of the office for a day, coming to work here, and again, creating that relationship and thinking more about the green spaces local to them.
What are some ways that people can get involved at home? What can the everyday person do to help participate and safeguard biodiversity in the green place they care about, or in their own home or garden?
Well, I suppose the best thing about this sort of stuff is you don't have to do anything big or extravagant. It can be something really simple, putting bird feed out for the birds in your garden, or creating a small wildlife pond perhaps if you've got the space for it. Little things you can do in your garden. No mow may proves to be really successful with invertebrates, and it's a really simple thing that we can do. I mean, so easy. You don't have to mow your garden. It's less work for us to do, and nature benefits, so it's fantastic in that aspect. So little things like that are really easily done, and I think more people can be doing them. It's just understanding the benefits of doing it and why we do it. So little things in your garden like that, but maybe on a wider scale, an issue we have all over the place is dealing with litter. So we'll go out to community reserves every week and we'll litter pick frequently because there's always rubbish about. So people just taking home rubbish with them, or if they see some out on a walk, just picking it up and putting it in the bin, makes such a huge difference in the long run, because it's not just one or two people litter picking, it's the whole community is getting involved. And when you do it frequently, you really start to see the positive impact you're having on the area. So something as simple as that, again, it's so easily done. We don't have to go out and spend lots of money on these sort of things. It's small and effective ways for people to get involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talked about in people's gardens, the other thing is having a pond, isn't it? A pond can be amazing for biodiversity.
Yeah, it's and again, I know people that have made ponds out of standard little boxes. They don't have to be big spaces, but wildlife will find a way to find these spaces. So if we can sacrifice a small area of our garden for a pond, or for wildflower, or letting our hedges grow a bit bigger, the nature will find a way to utilise that space. So we don't have to have big areas and sacrifice our whole garden for these sort of things.
Excellent. A lot of the hands-on practical physical work that Earth Trust managed to do is only able to be done because of the help we get from our tremendous volunteers, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're quite a small team, so having the help of all these volunteers is massive for us, and we probably wouldn't be as far down our list of things to do without them. So for example, coppicing, it's so labour intensive. We rely heavily on our big groups of volunteers to come and help us for the day, and the amount that we can achieve with these groups is amazing just because of their hard work, and it's really rewarding for us and them as well, because we do it on a rotation every year, so we're really able to notice the difference in each section that's coppiced, and yeah, it's just fantastic to have the large number of people that we do have come help us on a weekly basis, take time out of their week, and it really shows that their connection with nature is really important to them, and it's also just a great social and physical activity for them as well. So without them we'd really struggle, and like I said, it's just amazing to be able to then see the results throughout the year as the landscape around us is changing.
So we're doing some great work across our sites to help to protect and conserve biodiversity, and we're doing that with the help of our volunteers. But there's always more to be done, especially with the challenges that Oxfordshire faces with development and also with climate change.
At Earth Trust, we believe that working in partnership, collaborating and sharing knowledge and innovation that can inspire change for the benefit of the planet and people is key to solving the biodiversity crisis. Find out more about the work we do at earthtrust.org.uk. Thanks for listening.